Okay. All right. That will be $3,462.29. Sparkly butt plugs of various sizes, rainbow thigh-high socks, and lime green penis lollipops line up on my counter, and the pile is still growing. The entourage of Tinkerbells still not done with their horny shopping spree. This had to be the most colorful pile of debauchery I had ever seen. But then again, I've only been working here for a week. It's my 6th day working as a cashier at Dreams, an adult video and novelty shop located inside of a strip mall on Highway 19 in Pasco County, Florida. A scenic road known for its unusually high number of pedestrian deaths and porn stores. I was hesitant about accepting the job here for a lot of reasons. One of them being the oncoming traffic. Another was that I was worried somebody I knew would run into me here. It's not that I have any aversion to dildos, adult DVDs, and little booths to masturbate in, but I don't exactly have an all-consuming passion for it either. I'm not a virgin, but I can count the times I've had sex on one hand. A self-imposed, friendless, and sexless life combined with a cum laude degree in English from a state university was supposed to lead to a dream job in academia. Yet here, I stand behind a register, ringing up lube at the crack of dawn, thanks to a shitty economy and an influx of girls who loved Jane Austen in middle school and also decided to pursue English teaching degrees. However, Dreams does have 70 different kinds of lube. I had no idea there was 70 different ways to moisten up your genitals. That's just not something you learn while deconstructing the Canterbury Tales. My first week at the store had actually been pretty bland until Jimmy walked in on my first Friday night. He recognized me immediately, which isn't so surprising because I'd barely changed anything about myself other than being a few pounds heavier than I used to be. Jimmy looked completely different. He used to sport a long, greasy ponytail, which was now a very well-manicured, bleached faux hawk. He was also now covered in tattoos, one of which was a portrait of his very own face, and was wearing excessive giant pieces of jewelry, things that Joan Rivers would have called statement pieces. A giant $sign necklace certainly says a statement to me, and that statement was, I can pay my rent and my bills and have lots of money left over for anything I could ever want. Jimmy entered the store with a group of incredibly attractive female disciples. It was 5:30 a.m. I presume the sun was rising, but there aren't any windows in the store, so I wouldn't know. The girls looked like mini-me versions of Jimmy, also with multicolored hair and tattoos. Wearing various neon-colored tutus, slap bracelets, where did they even find those? Weren't they outlawed in like 1986? Fuzzy leg warmers and platform sneakers. Their eyes were large and bloodshot. I imagine they are on some kind of designer drugs that only famous people have access to. This motley crew of rainbow bright puke slipped around the store and swooped up anything shiny they could penetrate or vibrate themselves with. They plopped the objects on the checkout counter with glee, while Jimmy watched them from the front of the store, nodding in approval. Once they were done, Jimmy strutted over to me. His focus trained on preparing his wallet for the transaction, but he immediately did a double take when he looked up. Taryn? He asked, surprised. Yeah. Hey, I wasn't quite sure how to play this off because he'd been in the store for at least 30 minutes, and I didn't want to say hi to him unless he said hi to me first. Damn, I haven't seen you in a minute. It had actually been about 6 years, but I suppose when your life is a constant drug and sex rush, that time has a completely different meaning. Yeah, well, I see posters of you all over the place, so I've been seeing you. Congrats on everything. I guess when you told everyone you were dropping out of high school to be a famous DJ, you were really onto something. A short, skinny girl dressed like Betty Boop from the wrong side of the tracks interrupted this awkward reunion by plopping down a tiny, precious Swarovski crystal butt plug on the counter. "I want this too," she said, batting her eyes at Jimmy. I was still new there, and I'm not entirely sure how to converse with the customers. Was I supposed to act as though I was ringing up laundry detergent at Walgreens, totally nonchalant? Or was being a slight amount of sleazy the professional thing to do? I received about 45 minutes worth of training for this job from the owner of the store, who happened to be drunk on her own batch of moonshine at the time. Half the items Jimmy and his minions wanted weren't tagged properly, so I made up prices based on how expensive things kind of looked. So $249.99 seemed about right for this butt plug. The amount of money I made in a week, going straight into an asshole. "This looks like quite the adventure," I said in a very grandma-esque tone. "Haha, yeah, well, we're celebrating because I dropped a new single tonight," Jimmy said. "Well," I said, "I hope someone picked it up for you," I nervously replied. God damn it. Fortunately, I don't think he heard my horribly lame joke. Either that or he heard it and ignored it, which was a completely appropriate thing to do. "That will be $3,462.29, I said. This didn't faze him at all. He handed me a credit card, just one credit card, without a blink of an eye. Damn. My college books were about $3,000, and I used to always spread them amongst 3 different credit cards along with a handful of cash. "Oh yeah, and an hour in room 4, please," he said, just before I finished ringing everything up. In my entire week-long employment here, no one had asked me for one of the rooms before. Oh wait, I mean rooms with a Z. That's what they're called here. The letter Z apparently exudes a sexiness in which I don't understand. They never taught me that in college. Dreams is supposed to be a store where your wildest fantasies come true. People are encouraged to purchase whatever they want in the store and use their purchase in one of the rooms. There are televisions screening adult films, giant vats of lube you can access with a pump, and plenty of tissues. On my first day here, I mistakenly thought the lube was hand sanitizer, a mistake I've made sure not to repeat, since it left my hands incredibly slippery without any purpose of penetration all day. I'm supposed to say, "Would you like to make your dreams come true?" after every purchase, as an upsell to get people to purchase time in one of the rooms. But I hadn't been doing that. I figured if somebody wanted one, they would ask. Clearly, this was not Jimmy's first time there, considering he already knew what room number he wanted. At $49.99 an hour, the room was the biggest and most expensive the store had to offer. In addition to the Kleenex and the television sets that looped random pornographic films, it had a leopard print ottoman and mirrors on the ceiling. It seemed perfect for the extreme types of people who came into the store. The narcissistic nymphomaniacs, the sneaking spouses, the self-hating, sexually deprived folks who couldn't get laid elsewhere, or anyone else who has money and just wants to do it in a semi-public space. Like they say, dreams do come true. I opened the register and I grabbed the key for room number 4. It was a tiger-striped key, which appropriately complemented the ottoman. There was only 1 key per room, not a master key or anything as far as I knew. So whoever held the key held the power to control who and what were allowed in the appropriate den of debauchery. So, since this is choose your own adventure, we can choose which next part I read. And I'll just read a little bit more. So, we can take a vote.
What are the options?
If you would like the key to go to Jimmy,
The DJ?
the DJ, that is one option. And the other option is to give the key to the girls. So,
Girls.
okay. But if you buy the book, you should read both. Okay, then I will turn to the girls' chapter. This gets a little dirty, okay? Just warning you. Okay. All right. I opened the cash register and grabbed the key for room 4, and I handed it to the fairy with the largest wings in the group. In this collection of fairy tale creatures, the big wings just screamed authority to me. The fairy with the big wings grabbed another fairy with much smaller wings, along with a girl dressed like a slutty unicorn, and another girl who was not dressed as part of the animal kingdom at all and looked more like a Jersey Shore Kim Kardashian type. They all giggled and sprinted into the room and locked the door. Jimmy was lethargic and didn't realize what was happening. He was lost in deep concentration, staring at the back of a DVD box cover for a movie titled School of Black Cock No. 3. After 17 consecutive years of schooling and a very large student loan eating up half of my very small paychecks, I couldn't ever possibly imagine getting aroused by any pornographic film that reminded me of school. He dropped out so early that I could see how he was nostalgic about classrooms and stuff. I wasn't sure what to do here. I pretended to be busy rearranging a display case, but then I actually realized that the display case truly did need some different products in there. These dildos looked like they were from the 90s. Was there an expiration date on dildos? Does the material erode over time? Hey, where did everyone go? Jimmy shouted. I wasn't actually sure if the question was directed at me, but there was no one else to answer. I looked away from the retro dildos to address him. The girls are, in the room. I'm sorry. Everything kind of happened fast. I gave the fairy the key because I thought she was in charge, and I'm sorry. You paid for the room. I shouldn't have done that. I'm still new here. I didn't think... Shit, for real though? He replied. I had no idea how to respond. This was such a bizarre fragment of a sentence. Maybe you can just knock on the door and they'll let you in, or I can give you your own room if you want. No extra cost. They'll learn their lesson. I had deja vu of my mother who attempted to console me after I was stood up by my prom date. Coincidentally, that prom was also Jimmy's first DJ gig. I found solace in the fact that whether you're covered in acne or you're covered in tattoos, you still have an equal chance of getting rejected. It's all good, whatever. Yeah, that's the right attitude. It's their loss, really. I paused. Sometimes I just feel like I can't stop talking. I have this way of making uncomfortable moments so much worse by opening my mouth, but I can't stop it. Not like I would know. I mean, yeah, I can just tell you would be great in there, and they'll be really sorry. Am I channeling my mother? And again, I am channeling my mother, and nobody's mother belongs at a porn store at 6 a.m. Let me get a peek, yo, he said. Oh, well, yeah, I mean, I'm supposed to be keeping an eye on them, I think, technically. I'm not supposed to show customers the security camera, but since we're friends and you paid for the room, I think it's fine, I said very uncertainly. I invited Jimmy behind the register and I sharpened the contrast on the old television monitor as much as I possibly could. If only I had some popcorn, this could have been like the high school date we never had. The girls seemed to be enjoying themselves. I was tuning in a bit late. They were all naked, aside from the wings and the leg warmers, a unicorn beanie, and the more conventional-looking girl who didn't dress up like any mythical creature had her VIP laminated badge with Jimmy's face on it dangling between her incredibly large and very obviously unnatural perky breasts. I like that she showed her loyalty to Jimmy in some sort of way, even though he spent $4,000 and wasn't even in the room. The two fairies got on all fours and shoved their asses towards the unicorn and the Jersey Shore girl and began the process of inserting their crystal butt plugs inside of themselves. The fairies helped each other by touching each other's clits and rubbing lube on each other's assholes. The other two girls stared at them with amazement and applauded their anal abilities. Jimmy gave his own applause on the other side of the store. Butt plugs truly brought joy to people in a way that I never knew. The fairies shook their asses and kissed each other. One fairy licked the other fairy's ass, and it was sparkly and erotic, and it was so dazzling. I had never really seen an accessorized asshole, and it was quite beautiful. The Jersey Shore girl appeared shy but curious. She tugged at the unicorn's nipple rings and played around with her meaty clit ring in amazement. The unicorn's clit ring was incredibly thick. It looked heavy, like a giant silver weight dangling off her pussy. I didn't know clit rings came in so many various sizes like that. The Jersey girl's shyness disappeared. She relaxed as her eyes went into the back of her head. She grabbed onto fairy number 2's ass for balance, and the fairy rubbed her clit with her own fingers while grabbing onto the unicorn's tits, and all with the butt plug still inside of her. Jimmy rubbed his crotch. I could see a boner poking from the inside of his pants. I had to admit, I was a little wet too. What an advantage we have as women that we can be so secretive about our own perversions. I don't envy a large metal-like rod that told the world when we were aroused. But he didn't seem to care. I suppose not having an erection at this moment would be a lot worse. His eyes were glued to the TV. The unicorn grabbed the VIP badge with Jimmy's face on it that was around the Jersey Shore girl's neck and kissed her ferociously as the Hitachi was still on her clit. Everyone seemed so determined to make this girl have an orgasm. Perhaps once she had one, she would turn into a unicorn or a fairy too. Jimmy reached for his cock underneath his pants and he began pleasuring himself behind the register. I'm not quite sure if this was allowed, but I didn't think it was illegal. I mean, Jimmy was a local hero. He pushed buttons on laptops at nightclubs that cost over $50 to get into. It was an honor to have him rub his own cock underneath his oversized pants in the middle of our store, right? The fairy with the smaller wings lied down, and the other fairy wrapped her legs around her head and sat on her face. The unicorn followed suit and laid the Jersey Shore girl down and sat on her face with the back massager still glued to her clit. The fairies morphed into a 69 and licked and fingered each other progressively with more and more fingers inside of each other's pussy until every part of their hands had disappeared. It was intense. They continued until they both started pulsating on each other's hands. Holy shit, I noticed a small fountain of squirt came out of one of the fairy's bigger wings, vagina. Jimmy continued to touch himself. The Jersey Shore girl then shook uncontrollably with the unicorn's pussy in her mouth. The back massager had broken her down and given her a greater orgasm than anybody else's. The fairies licked their juices off their fingers, and the unicorn seemed satisfied to have come inside such a perfect pair of collagen-injected lips. And Jimmy, well, he rubbed himself to completion successfully without even taking his pants off. I ran to the bachelorette section of the shop, and I pulled out a tuggy, aka a fuzzy sock that fits on your cock. A sock cock, if you will. I offered it to him as a complimentary gift. I thought it would be a comfortable alternative to wear it for the ride home as opposed to his stained pants. There was a neon green one that I thought suited his style quite well. The girls laughed and poured out some various powders on the table that they snorted through penis straws that were meant for bachelorette parties. They took their time getting ready. They did, after all, have about 13 minutes left of room left. Do you want me to call you a cab or something? I asked Jimmy. Nah, he said, I got a limo outside. Yeah, of course he did. And that's it.